Hello and welcome to Courts Today by Live Law. Let us get to today's top legal updates. The Supreme Court has directed to make eKYC process accessible to persons with disabilities. The Supreme Court has stayed Delhi High Court direction to revise the CLAT UG 2025 merit list. The Supreme Court has held that in cases of cross FIRs, it is unfair to quash one FIR while probing the other, and both should be investigated together. The Madras High Court has set aside discharge of Tamil Nadu Minister M.R.K. Paneerselvam in two disproportionate asset cases. The Supreme Court has stayed Kerala High Court's direction for a CBI probe against Chief Minister's Chief Principal Secretary K.M. Abraham in the DA case. The top court has affirmed Bombay High Court's deletion of certain allegations made against Union Minister Nitin Gadkari in the 2019 election petition. I am Urvashi Chauhan with your daily roundup of legal updates from across the country. For a detailed reading, you can always visit www.livelaw.in. Please make sure to watch this video till the end and do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Well, before I get to the details, here is an exciting opportunity for the judiciary aspirants out there. Live Law Academy, Live Law's judiciary coaching initiative, has opened registrations for its May batch. You can now choose from two tailored courses. First, Jessup 2.0, a comprehensive 18-month online program covering everything you need to crack the judiciary exam, taught by an expert panel including retired judges. And there is Jessup Lite, a flexible, weekday-only program for those who prefer a structured yet lighter approach. Sign up today and get an exclusive 25% early bird discount. Plus, you get to enjoy Live Law free subscription, case compilations, and much more. Don't miss this opportunity and enroll today at www.livelawacademy.com. The Supreme Court has made a major move to ensure that persons with disabilities, including acid attack survivors and the visually impaired, are not left out of India's digital world. In a landmark judgment delivered today, the court directed the government to revise its digital Know Your Customer or the eKYC process so that people with facial disfigurements or visual impairment can access banking and government services without any barriers. Let me tell you, the case here was brought by two petitioners, Pragya Prasun, an acid attack survivor, and Amar Jain, a blind advocate, both of whom have faced repeated hurdles while trying to complete the digital KYC process for basic services. The court said that in today's world, where banking, education, healthcare, and welfare schemes are increasingly moving online, access to digital service is not just a convenience, it is a constitutional right. The judgment explained that the right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution must now include the right to access digital services, especially for the vulnerable and marginalized. The bench, comprising Justices J.B. Pardiwala and R. Madhavan, stressed that a dignified life means equal access to digital infrastructure for everyone, including people with disabilities, rural populations, senior citizens, and linguistic minorities. The bench said that the digital divide is no longer just a policy issue, it is now a constitutional challenge. Justice Madhavan, who authored this judgment, explained that current eKYC processes are simply not designed for people with disabilities. Many services ask users to blink, move their head, or click pictures, things that are difficult or even impossible for acid attack survivors or the visually impaired. As a result, these individuals are often denied access to basic banking and welfare schemes. The court noted that this is not acceptable. Under the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act and the Constitution, the petitioners have the legal and moral right to accessible digital systems. The top court also highlighted that the state has a responsibility to build an inclusive digital ecosystem, one that does not work only for the privileged but also for historically excluded. In the next update, the Supreme Court has today stayed the operation of a Delhi High Court judgment which had directed the Consortium of National Law Universities to revise the CLAT 2015 merit list for the undergraduate candidates. The Supreme Court today stayed the operation of a Delhi High Court judgment which had directed the Consortium of National Law Universities to revise the CLAT 2025 merit list for the undergraduate admissions. The High Court had earlier found that 4 questions in the B, C, and the D sets of CLAT UG 2025 paper contained errors. It had therefore directed that marks be awarded to candidates who had attempted those specific sets and asked the consortium to revise the merit list within 4 weeks. However, the High Court did not extend this benefit to candidates who had attempted Set A, holding that the Set A did not contain any incorrect questions. The Supreme Court was approached by a candidate who had attempted the Set A and had secured an All India rank of 22. She argued that the High Court's decision to give additional marks only to candidates from the other sets was discriminatory and placed her and others like her at an unfair disadvantage. Since her paper had no errors, she had no opportunity to gain any extra marks. But candidates who had attempted erroneous sets would now be given bonus marks, which could potentially push her rank lower in the revised merit list. She contended that this approach destroyed the principle of a level playing field in a competitive exam. Acting on her petition, a bench of Justices B.R. Gawai and A.G. Masih stayed the High Court's ruling and issued notice on the special leave petition. Well, this effectively puts the merit list revision process on hold for now. The CLAT 2025 merit list, as it currently stands, will remain in place until the Supreme Court decides on the matter conclusively. The core issue here is whether it is fair to selectively award bonus marks to only some candidates when all of them are competing for the same set of seats. Stay tuned. In a significant judgment, the Supreme Court has held that when cross FIRs are registered, that is, when both parties in a dispute file criminal complaints against each other, it is not legally correct for the police or courts to quash one FIR while allowing the other to be investigated. This ruling came from a bench comprising Justice Dipankar Datta and Justice Manmohan, who emphasized that the objective of any criminal investigation is the discovery of truth, and that can only happen through a fair, balanced, and complete probe. The case before the court arose from a situation in Delhi where two parties had filed cross FIRs against each other. One party's FIR was quashed by the Delhi High Court, effectively allowing only the other side's version of events to be investigated. The aggrieved party, whose FIR was quashed, approached the Supreme Court seeking redress. The Supreme Court found that the High Court had erred in dismissing one complaint while letting the other continue, especially when both were directly connected to the same incident and contained conflicting allegations. Reversing the High Court's decision, the Supreme Court reinstated the quashed FIR and directed that both FIRs should be investigated in parallel. The court also added that if the matter leads to trials, they should be conducted by the same judge to avoid contradictory outcomes. This ensures not just fairness in procedure but also consistency in the eventual findings. The Supreme Court also referred to its earlier judgment in Nathilal versus State of UP from 1990, where it had held that cross cases must be tried together by the same judge. In its latest ruling, the court has extended that principle to the investigation stage as well, making it clear that a comprehensive and unified investigation is necessary when two parties accuse each other in cross cases. Let me tell you, cross FIRs are a common occurrence in real life disputes, be it neighborhood clashes, business disagreements, family feuds, or street altercations. Investigating only one side creates an uneven playing field and many lead to injustice. The court has strongly reiterated that every version of events must be examined, especially when both sides are accusing each other of wrongdoing. Moving ahead, the Madras High Court has set aside discharge of Tamil Nadu Agriculture Minister M.R.K. Paneerselvam in two separate disproportionate asset cases, reviving serious corruption allegations against him. Justice P. Velumurugan passed this ruling, setting aside a 2016 order of the special judge in Cuddalore, which had cleared Paneerselvam of charges filed by Directorate of Vigilance and Anti-Corruption. The first case here pertains to the period between the years 2006 and 2011, when Paneerselvam was the Minister for Health and Family Welfare. The prosecution alleged that he and his family amassed wealth that was far exceeding to his known sources of income. The High Court observed that there was enough prima facie material to proceed with the trial. It also found that the trial judge had gone beyond the limited scope of Section 239 of CRPC, which governs discharge proceedings. According to the High Court, the prosecution must be given the opportunity to present its evidence, and the judge had improperly assessed the defense case at a premature stage. The court also found that the findings of the trial judge were perverse and not in line with the legal framework. It emphasized that claims made by the accused regarding family background, sources of income, and allegations of bias were defenses that should be raised during the trial and not at the stage of discharge. In response to the argument that prosecution's case would force the accused to become witness against themselves, the High Court firmly rejected this claim. It held that there was no such compulsion in law and that the accused had the opportunity to explain their income sources when notices were served. And the second case concerns Paneerselvam's earlier tenure as Minister for Backward Classes and Welfare from 1996 to 2001, with similar allegations of unaccounted wealth. In both matters, the High Court has directed the Special Court to frame charges and proceed with the trial, instructing it to complete the proceedings within 6 months. In a sense, the High Court has restored both corruption cases and underscored the need for a full-fledged trial, stating clearly that the prosecution deserves a chance to prove its case. Moving further, the Supreme Court has put a temporary stay on the Kerala High Court's directive to the CBI to investigate K.M. Abraham, who currently serves as the Chief Principal Secretary to Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. This comes in response to a special leave petition filed by Abraham challenging the High Court's April 11th order, which had asked the CBI to probe allegations that he had amassed assets disproportionate to his known sources of income. A bench of Justice Dipankar Datta and Justice Manmohan issued the interim stay while also issuing notice to the CBI, the state of Kerala, and activist Jomun Puthan Purakal, who had originally moved the Kerala High Court against the closure of the case. The case began when the Vigilance and Anti-Corruption Bureau submitted a closure report stating that there was no evidence of a cognizable offence under the Prevention of Corruption Act. The Vigilance Court accepted this report. However, the Kerala High Court found that the Vigilance judge had accepted the report in a casual and perfunctory manner without applying proper judicial scrutiny. As a result, the High Court not only set aside the Vigilance Court's order but also transferred the investigation to the CBI for a fresh probe. The Supreme Court stay now halts this investigation transfer until the matter is heard in greater detail. Abraham, who was formerly the additional Chief Secretary of the Finance Department, currently holds an influential role in the state government and is also the CEO of Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Board. And lastly, the top court has dismissed petitions challenging a Bombay High Court order that had struck down several allegations made against Union Minister Nitin Jairam Gadkari in an election petition filed after the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. The petitions filed by a voter and some rival candidates had contested the High Court's decision to remove parts of the original election petition under Order 6, Rule 16 of the Civil Procedure Code. The allegations that were struck off pertained to earnings and property of Gadkari's family and expenses incurred during the 2019 campaign. A bench of Justices Suryakant and N. Koteshwar Singh noted that Gadkari's 2019 term had already ended and he was re-elected in 2024. Still, after hearing the parties, the court upheld the High Court's reasoning and declined to interfere. The Bombay High Court had earlier ruled that only those allegations which disclosed a clear cause of action, specifically about land owned by Gadkari and declaration of agriculture as income, could be tried. The rest were deemed unnecessary or irrelevant. The petitioners argued that the High Court acted prematurely and failed to consider that even weak or arguable claims deserved a trial. However, the Supreme Court rejected these arguments and agreed that the power to strike out pleadings had been rightly exercised in this case.